a lot happened at the 95 Source Awards. That was one of the most storied, rap shows ever, probably. So much happened that night. And mainly the East and West Coast rap war really took off that night, and you could see it up close. You'd been hearing about it. People had been rumbling and stuff like that, but that night it was on blast. Suge was showing out, Diddy was showing out, there different people were showing out, man. It was going down. It was up in New York, Mecca of hip hop, whatever. We all know about all that. If you want to be a star, come to Death Row and all that is big, But I think one of the biggest stories of the night was when Andre 3000 went up there and said the South got something to say. As a 20-year-old by himself, unknown MC, with just a hot record and stuff like that, and having to try to establish himself, he understood this night was important. If I win, I get that mic and everybody's gonna know who I am at this point. So I'm gonna use this time to say the South has something to say. It's like a demo and ain't nobody trying to listen, but we coming and we here. People would think, well, what did he know that they didn't? Well, he was down there. He was on that Chitlin circuit, and he saw how all these local guys, all these local Southern acts were stars in their own respective markets already. And it was only a matter of time as hip hop continued to open up that these guys were going to be heard. And that's exactly what happened, especially in Atlanta. But not just Atlanta, Louisiana, Miami, you know what I'm saying? All these different places in the South, Mississippi, like they all eventually took off. The South completely gridlocked hip hop. It came to a point in rap where if you didn't have a Southern accent, it was almost going to be hard for you to get on. Like, it was really like that. And it all started from that point when that kid said the South got something to say. 20 years old, not necessarily fully sure of himself, not sure if he was ready to even say that or nothing, but he followed his gut and said what he had to say. And they took over. He became an elder statesman. They sold millions of records, his group, all that, but not just that. The kids he inspired. Those younger guys who wasn't in the game yet, who was still in high school, middle school, who were listening to rap and taking this thing serious, these guys were inspired by what he said that night more than anybody, because they're the ones that pushed it forward. They're the ones who developed trap music and all this stuff that you see now, all because they were inspired by Andre 3000 on that night. T.I., Jeezy, Boosie, Plies, 2 Chainz, Ludacris, Rick Ross, all these dudes that came up out of the South that on that night, they were still just teenagers watching. And a young guy a little bit older than them said, hey, we coming. And they all knew it was real because they was already all out there doing it. It wasn't just that he just was magical and prophetical and all that. They were already out there, reaping, sowing what they were trying to reap. When you seen them out there getting it in the streets and doing what they got to do to get visible on a national level, but they started locally, started out the back of their trunks. Guys started bossing up for themselves and stuff like that. And bam, next thing you know, a lot of these guys became on Front Street. Baby, Master P, Tony Draper, on into the 2000s, man, where everybody was moving out to Atlanta. It was like the place to be. If you was listening to New York radio at times, it sounded like Atlanta. All they rappers started rapping like they were from the South, and Atlanta took over. The South took over. And it started, I'd like to say it started that night when that young dude put his spot on blast. You gotta think, man, all the stereotypes about Atlanta. They was looking at that boy, man, this boy got the dashiki on. This little nappy-headed little country boy, man, talking about the South got something to say, man. Put Suge on the screen. Put Dre on the screen. Put Diddy on the screen. We don't want to hear this little country boy. But you had to hear that little country boy. He made some of the biggest songs you ever heard. You know what I'm saying? His group pushed hip hop into the pop lane so far that now you got the Drakes and a lot of guys like Drake, Kanye, and all them. They started out listening to people like Andre 3000. He made it alright. And this ain't just about him inspiring, but it's also about doing things before you even ready for it. You gotta be. He looked delusional that night. Sometimes that's what you gotta be. Sometimes that's what you gotta be. He looked delusional. People were like, all right, Atlanta's popping, you know, and stuff like that. And they got the R&B thing, but this hip hop is always going to be a New York thing. It's always going to be a LA thing. And that ended up being so far from the truth. So sometimes maybe you gotta be a little delusional and you be okay with you being the only one to see your vision.